Hey there, good morning everyone, and welcome to our Give Miami Day Prep webinar, Top Social Media Strategies for Participating Nonprofits. We are just giving folks a minute to join us, and so if we can all just hang tight and we'll get started in a sec. Thanks so much. Alrighty, it is 10:03, and I have always been a big believer that you do not punish those who are on time by making them wait. So we are going to go ahead and get started. So again, welcome everyone for joining us, who is joining us. I am Matthew Beatty, Senior Director of Communications and Engagement at the Miami Foundation, and I am so thrilled to be with you all this morning as we talk about top social media strategies for Give Miami Day 2020. So here's our roadmap for our session. We're not going to be too long. We'll keep it to about an hour. So we'll talk about the new giving environment that we are in light of COVID-19 and the current state of our world and community. We'll go through some standard outreach tips that have been tried and true practices for Give Miami Day. We'll talk about a timeline for how to build your social media campaign between now and November 19th. We'll talk about what to do on Give Miami Day, and then some ideas of what we see is working well right now in the digital engagement space for nonprofits. Throughout this entire session, you will see a chat option on the Zoom webinar. You can, by all means, submit questions. I will see them. Stephanie Cruz from our team is also on the webinar. She will see them, and I'll be just responding to questions as they come in, so feel free to go ahead and ask them there in the chat. All right, so let's jump right in. If we can get the screen to advance. There we go. Okay, so the new environment that we're in, of course, we all know that we have entered a new normal as a society. Many of us are working remotely. Many folks are in kind of upheaval stages and looking for jobs. So donors are in new places. So many times we were so used to reaching donors at work through their work emails, or if you placed an ad in the Miami Herald and they had a subscription at the office, then you knew a donor would see that ad. However, with people working from home and with people even traveling and then working from different locations for an extended amount of time, there's just a lot of change in terms of where to find donors. And where those donors now are have a lot of noise. We're in the midst of a major presidential campaign. We have COVID-19 pandemic that continues to ravage many of our communities. We've got a national reckoning on racial and social injustice happening. All of this is sucking energy out of the room and sucking oxygen out of the room. And so it is a lot harder for us to compete with those who we are looking to reach and engage in giving. So we'll have to work differently, but just as hard to find them and engage them. But even with all this upheaval, giving is very strong right now. We're seeing a strong fundraising year at the Miami Foundation. Philanthropists are really stepping up to give in this COVID-19 pandemic. And so there's a lot of opportunity there for nonprofits to raise funds, but you have to have made the pivot. And that's an important caveat because donors are supporting organizations that are serving their communities in the midst of this tough pandemic. It's not so much the organizations that are sitting there saying, you know, oh, things have changed, we're in our financial straits, please give to us and help us stay afloat. It's more so organizations who are saying, yes, there's been a big change, we are trying to figure this out, but we just need your help as we make this transition. So we'll talk about how to message and position kind of what we all know nonprofits are going through right now so that that message lands and resonates with donors. In this new environment, there's a couple of tips that are important in terms of what media is working right now and what media is not. First, what is working? Digital is huge right now. Everyone is going virtual to stay connected. Internet usage is up, social media usage is up. So the good news is that Give Miami Day, already being a digital campaign, fits well into this environment. So what should you leverage? Digital ads, Google ads, social media ads, email campaigns, text message campaigns, even platforms like Nextdoor that seek to connect people who live in a certain place or share a certain cause or concern that they champion together. All of those places where people are connecting virtually and digitally are great media opportunities. But also don't forget your more traditional media outlets as well. In times of crisis, traditional media consumption always increases because folks look to journalists as that validating, safe, well-known voice to provide them information to help them through it. So radio is still very strong in terms of reaching donors. Print and online outlets are still very strong, as is television. What you may want to rethink, in-person events, obviously, you can certainly host them, making sure that you're following CDC guidelines. But in reality, many folks are just still not quite ready to get back to that kind of in-person connection and face-to-face interaction. So just be mindful of that if you do plan an in-person event. Also, outdoor advertising, while folks are starting to move around a bit more, we are still seeing a large number of folks who are just staying home, or they're not taking their daily commute because they're working from home every day. And so outdoor advertising, because it's so expensive, you may not be getting the return on investment as you usually would in other environments. So I'm trying to advance our slide here. Sorry about this, folks. Give me 1 second. There we go. Okay, so I always like to start this presentation with this slide because it's a nice reminder about where the power to reach donors lies in our Give Miami Day campaigns. So these are the results of a survey that we send out to participating donors every year after Give Miami Day. And this year, we asked respondents, where did they hear about Give Miami Day? And as you can see there, the #1 way that they found out about participating in the day was an email or a newsletter from a participating nonprofit. And that accounted for over half of the people that participated in Give Miami Day. You can see the second most popular method is an email from the Miami Foundation there. And then the third most popular is social media. So what does this tell us? That the #1 way that we can reach donors on this day are actually media platforms that are completely within our control. So we don't have to depend on the Miami Herald to tell our story or for NBC6 to tell our story, we can go directly to them and know that we are reaching the folks who are ultimately going to support our organization. And so that should give us a lot of power to then build these campaigns and build them in a way that we know that, that they are truly engaging and reaching donors. So we'll talk a bit about best practices and what has worked well for nonprofits over the years for Give Miami Day, but then we'll also, of course, provide tips and insights to pivot in this new environment. There we go. Okay, so some outreach tips. First thing you want to do with your Give Miami Day campaign is set a goal. And particularly in a year like this, where there are so many needs that people are giving to, whether it be coronavirus relief or if it's political campaigns or other causes, you know, it's tough for there to be a real expectation that there's going to be that it's tough for us to only prioritize a dollar amount in terms of the goal for Give Miami Day, because in a year where there's a lot of competition, we want to make sure that donors don't feel like you're just asking them for money, but that you're really engaging them around the causes that they care about. So this year more than ever, we particularly, as well as the Miami Foundation, are doubling down on a message that really seeks to engage folks around what they value. And those are all of the causes that the organizations on this call now are working on. And so the question is, what are the goals that we want to set in this day? If it's not only about raising the money, it could also be about securing new donors. And so one goal you could set would be to secure 100 new donors during Give Miami Day. Then the question would be, how do you go about accomplishing that? And so one key way would be, for example, reaching new donors by encouraging your current donors to get their friends to give with them. So the point here is that there can be several other outcomes from a successful Give Miami Day campaign that will benefit your organization beyond just the dollars given. So really spend some time with your team thinking through what you want to gain from this day. Next, make sure to build social media actually into the strategy. And this was critical for us at the foundation as we were designing this campaign, because again, we saw from the survey results that social media was a key way that folks were finding out about the day. So one way that we leveraged that insight and knowledge was to, for example, only announce the prizes throughout the day on Twitter. That way, we are literally forcing and driving people to that platform as the only place that they can receive that information. So point being, think about the networks that you have in place, and then think about how you can leverage them in your Give Miami Day campaign and build them actually into it. This is a good time to leverage those platforms that you have a really good presence on. So if you've got a lot of followers on Facebook, but not a ton on Twitter, that's okay. Then center your Give Miami Day campaign around Facebook. However, because there is so much engagement in the virtual and online space right now, you may want to think about what new platforms you can leverage in this moment and add the additional wind of Give Miami Day behind it to then start to seed that platform with followers and engagement. So, so think about what new platforms you want to use, if it's TikTok, if it's Twitter, if it's Instagram, if you don't have a presence there. And then if you think that this could be an opportunity to, again, launch those platforms and get some additional attention to them around Give Miami Day, then by all means do that. And then lastly, Make sure to be your authentic self. And this is really important because there will be over 800 organizations vying for attention on this day. And so the only way that your donors and the folks that care about your issue will find you is if they see the branding and communications that they always see from you. So you don't want to go and change your brand colors. You don't want to try a lot of new marketing tricks necessarily, because you don't want people to not recognize your campaign when they see it. So stick to your authentic self and stick to what has worked for you and the messaging that has worked for you. Because as you will learn, one of the most effective constituencies to engage in your Give Miami Day campaign are your existing donors. And that's not because we just want those folks to give and we don't want new donors, but when existing donors are engaged, then they are excited to share that information with their networks. And often we within our own networks have people that think and act and behave like us. So if we engage our current donors, that makes it easier to reach new donors who are within their networks who also will likely care about the causes that we are working on in these organizations. And I'm sorry, I'm having some issues with the advancing slides, but I'm just going to keep moving and hope that the slides can catch up. So next, brand ambassadors. So the key there is to think about, again, those who are within your current universe. Those who are within your current universe, are there folks who we can leverage to reach and activate their networks to get more folks who think like them to give and support our organizations? And so those ambassadors can be all around you. They can be your board members. They can be volunteers. They can be staff members. There can be influencers who have given to your organization in the past. Think about how to provide those ambassadors information and prepackaged content so that they are ready to encourage folks to give on Give Miami Day. One good example of this is Marlon Hill, who is a previous board member of the Miami Foundation and is a very well-known civic leader. And over the years, Marlon has been very engaged in Give Miami Day because I have worked with him directly to help us with our Twitter party, which we'll talk about. He has utilized his great social following on Twitter and Facebook to excite people about the day. And so he has been a great asset to us because he has been able to activate his network throughout the entire, throughout the campaign. And so who are those folks who are on your board, who have large social media followings, who've got a lot of folks who listen to them and are influencers themselves? Who are those folks that we can leverage and then provide them the content and provide them the prepackaged tweets and provide them the Facebook posts so that they can then, we can leverage them and get the word out. And I see there's a couple of questions about, am I on a different slide? I am on the next slide. I am trying to get the presentation to advance, but I am having trouble. I think it's an issue with the platform, but nonetheless, we're just going to try to keep moving as best we can because I don't want to eat up too much of folks' time. Next, you want to make it real. Know that you're not just donating, that you're actually making a difference and exponentially leveraging your gift. That's the kind of messaging that you want to provide to donors. You're not just asking folks, hey, we want you to give $25. We want you to give $100 to support our organization. You really want to make it real for folks so that they understand the impact that they're making. So that means showing them who it will help, what will it do, where is the evidence. All of that specificity will help donors feel that even if all they have to give is that $25 or $50 gift, then that gift will still be just as impactful. And I can see here, they're trying to teach me how, they're trying to give me tips on how to advance the slides. Okay, actually, let's pause right here. I'm going to see. Okay, all right, that seems to have fixed it. I apologize for that, but in this environment, we all know that the best laid plans have not worked out as well as we hoped they would. So I appreciate you all for bearing with me. But the point there is really there to give that story and context behind your brand. Like, for example, it's not enough to just say, give to my food bank, for example, if I'm that organization. You really want to tell folks about the importance of eradicating hunger and the importance of making sure that people who need food and are food insecure right now are getting the resources that they need to survive in this really tough moment. And so describing those stories, having those individuals who have been helped by your organization tell their stories, seeing their faces, showing the evidence of the number of people that you have fed and the number of meals that you have served, all of that detail really helps, again, a donor feel like their gift is being valued. I see a couple of questions here. One, will the slide presentation be available? Absolutely, we'll provide this online on the GiveMiamiDay.org site for nonprofits shortly after this session. Also, a question from Ms. Vogel, how important is a champion page? So champion pages actually, for those who are unfamiliar, allow any donor of a nonprofit to create a personalized fundraising page on the GiveMiamiDay.org platform. They're actually really important, and we'll talk a bit more about how to leverage them later in the presentation, but they allow, again, that brand ambassador to have a personalized space where they can then encourage their friends to give. And again, the biggest source of donors who care about our issue, but that we may not be reaching already, are likely friends or friends of friends of our current donors. And so really important to leverage champion pages. And we had over 600 created last year by individual donors. So we know that that's a great fundraising tool for nonprofits. One question from Joan, give an example when I say stick to your authentic self. Sure. So I can always use the Miami Foundation as an example. At the start of the pandemic, of course, brands and organizations and nonprofits across the country were communicating with their audiences. And everybody, was beefing up their email campaigns because everything had gone virtual. There was a moment of reaction when you saw you were getting emails, likely from brands that you forgot that you were even on their email list, because so many were flooding your inbox, you just didn't even realize that they still had your contact information. And so in that moment, there was this kind of urgency to over communicate and really engage your audience. We at the Miami Foundation are big believers in not oversaturating our audiences with content, because we know there's so much email out there already that we don't want to overwhelm folks. And so we usually will email our audiences in its entirety, maybe once or twice a month. And then we'll kind of break down our list overall into smaller groups that we will then communicate with maybe on a bit more often. During that time, that cadence of communication is part of what authentically makes our brand who we are. It's what people expect from us, that we're not going to spam them, we're not going to annoy them, that we will be respectful of that email space and how often we communicate with them. And so while we did send out an email to our donors, we did send out a communication to our nonprofit database, we weren't necessarily one of those organizations that went outside of ourselves just because we were reacting to the moment. And so point being is that during Give Miami Day, if you have established a certain cadence with which you email your donors, what you don't want to do is, because of this campaign, all of a sudden start emailing them once a day for the next 2 months because you're trying to get them excited about the campaign. So that's part of being your authentic self, because all of that communication is reflective of your brand. Okay. I see we paused again, and so I'm just going to see if we can get this to move. There we go. Okay, making it shareable. So when you think about what goes viral, you can think about a lot of these social media challenges that we've been seeing lately. You saw the challenge of the 10 for 10, where someone would do 10 push-ups and they would challenge, someone else, 10 other people in their network to do 10 push-ups themselves and post it, and then they would, encourage 10 people to do the same. And so all of that is what encourages content to go viral. So when you're thinking about social media, think about what are the things that encourage you to share something. When you want to share something on Facebook, is it because the image is of cute animals? Is it because it's something that resonates with you? Thinking about why you would want to receive some sort of content and what would make you share it can actually be a very important way to create content that is engaging for your audience. So think about the shareability of your content. Really notice what's working on Facebook. A lot of video works on Facebook. Same thing on Instagram. You've got the viral reels that's now happening on Instagram, which is almost like a TikTok type platform that's now embedded in Instagram. All of those different ways of communicating that you see are very effective and that you want to share and that you see your friends sharing, that should clue you in to strategies and ways that you can communicate to get your donor base excited about supporting your organization. Then you want to make it personal. There's going to be more than 800 organizations engaged on this day. Make sure your emails reflect your authentic brand. Again, your colors, your fonts, your messaging. You want people to be able to clearly recognize your nonprofit when they are sifting through what will likely be a number of emails and communications that they will get around Give Miami Day. So sticking to your authentic branding is really important. And then making it relevant, tying your campaign to what's happening in the community is critical. As I said, donors really want to support organizations that are working hard to serve their community in this moment. So if you are on the front lines of all the issues that we see that are demanding our attention and are owning our news cycle right now, if you can show yourself to be a part of that work, that again helps donors recognize you as a resource for other members of our community, and that encourages them to support you. I see a question from Michelle. Do the champion pages show the donors as they donate so the champion can recognize them? Champion pages, I do not believe that they do. We can clarify that and get that information out to the group afterward, but I don't believe that they do. Actually, I am just receiving a note that they do actually, so it's donor as they are giving. And so you will be able to see them and you will be able to thank them. Okay, bear with me 1 second, folks. Okay, thanks so much. I'm sorry. We're going to get through this together. I promise we'll get there one way or another. Okay, so being a community member. Now, this will be important this year because for the first year, we are instituting what we're calling power hours on Give Miami Day. So that means from the hours of 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., each hour, we will feature a particular issue and category of nonprofit who are participating in Give Miami Day. So that means, for example, from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., we'll be featuring nonprofits that work on health and wellness. And so that will be a moment for us at the foundation to really focus in on talking about that particular issue. There'll be a moment for children and youth programs. There'll be a moment for people with diverse abilities and programs and organizations that serve that community. And so there will be an opportunity for nonprofits to partner and work with each other to give more spotlight and more attention to the issue that they work on. And so being a community member and working together this year will be really important. So there are other organizations that you have a close relationship with that work in the same space. Think about how you can work together on your Give Miami Day campaign, particularly during your power hour, and leverage each other's donor base. So how could that look? A couple of years ago, the Miami Arts Brigade was a coalition of arts organizations that came together, and rather than individually promoting their Give Miami Day campaigns, they pooled their resources, pooled their donor bases and databases, and created one cohesive message about supporting the arts on that day. They sent out emails, they created a Facebook page, they created a Twitter account, and it was incredibly effective. And that was underscored by the fact that that year, arts went from being maybe the number 4 or 5 highest fundraising category on Give Miami Day to being number 2. So that's proof that working together with other organizations on your cause is a great way to kind of give more attention and wind behind everyone's campaign on the day. And then you want to make sure to mind your manners. You know, as I mentioned, we at the foundation are adamant about not spamming our donors, that we want to engage you, but we don't want to annoy you. And in an environment where so much has gone virtual and people are getting a lot of email and they are spending a lot of time on their phones and computers already, you don't want to spam them. So you want to make sure that you are saying please when you're asking, that you are saying thank you, especially after they give. One story I always tell is from Joshua's Heart Foundation, when Joshua, who was a young man at the time and had this organization that sought to feed the homeless, I made a donation on Give Miami Day, and maybe about a couple hours later, I get a phone call, and it's this little tiny voice just expressing his gratitude for my gift and just thanking me so much for supporting the cause. And of course, now 6 years later, I'm still telling that story because of how meaningful that gesture of gratitude was. And so the more effectively that you can say thank you, the more likely you are going to convert a one-time donor into a long-time supporter of your organization. So a couple of questions. Will we have a list of the initiatives that will be in the same group prior so that you can reach out to each other? Yes. As you are registering for Give Miami Day, all of the approved profiles are now visible on givemiamiday.org. So you can see all the nonprofits who are within your category. You can see them currently on the site, and as they will continue registering through October 15th, and you can then feel free to reach out and connect with them. One question from Giselle. How many emails on the day of Give Miami Day do you think is polite and acceptable? I think that, again, depends on the frequency with which you usually communicate with your donor base. There's highly successful organizations like the Children's Movement of Florida that have leveraged email as kind of the centerpiece of their campaign. And so if you're on their list over the course of that day, you may receive, over 5, 6, 7, emails. Then there's other organizations that will send one at the start of Give Miami Day. There's other organizations that will send an email during the start of the time of a prize that they want to win. And so it really depends on how often you communicate with your donors. The only advice I would give would be to not stray too far from that. If donors are used to hearing from you once a week or once every 2 weeks or once or twice a month, then you don't want to send 5 or 6 emails on Give Miami Day. Maybe 1 to 2, and then leave it at that. Okay. I'm going to attempt to move on to the next slide, as I have been. Let's see if we can get to this timeline. Okay. While this Zoom platform, which clearly hates me this morning, it tries to figure out how to advance to the next slide, I'm just going to start talking a bit through the timeline for building your campaign. So first, in your current campaign, you should really now be planning for what are all of the elements that will take a bit longer to put together. So direct mail, for example, you will have to write out the language for the direct mail piece. You will have to, get it to the mail house. You'll have to get the list together and the postage, et cetera. And so that will take some time. And we know that direct mail is working well right now in terms of fundraising for nonprofits because folks are at home a lot more and they have time to read through content that you send them. And so if you are planning a direct mail piece around Give Miami Day, now would be the time to go with that. If you are planning to, again, work with other organizations during a power hour, now would be the time to start putting those plans together and getting a sense of what that kind of joint campaign could look like. A lot of that work will take a bit longer to come together. And so you want to make sure you give yourself plenty of runway to do so. Okay, there we go. So you can see there, planning mailers and printed collateral. Think about your pledge plan. We've seen a lot of organizations have success with leveraging pledges ahead of Give Miami Day and then entering gifts on the day of as a way to win prizes and, again, ensure that in the days and weeks and months leading up to Give Miami Day that you're capturing donors that you're engaging and not only depending on them to give during those for them to log on and give during those 24 hours. The great addition this year is that for the first time, we will have an early giving period where folks will be able to log on to givemiamiday.org on the Monday of the week of Give Miami Day and actually enter all of their credit card information and just like they are making a gift on the day of. And that information will then be stored like a pledge, and then the gift will actually process on Give Miami Day. And so that runway will be important to leverage for those donors who may need a bit more time or a bit more hand-holding or often maybe on Give Miami Day, they may be busy. And so you want to make sure that you're reaching out to them and working with them ahead of time. So So leveraging that early giving period will be very important, and that should be something that's, again, that you're thinking through right now. Now is also a good time to send that save the date. You will see us at the Miami Foundation. We'll start kind of using Give Miami Day collateral a lot more on our social media platforms as we kind of come into these final weeks leading up to November 19th. And so now, again, is the time to be thinking through all of those early elements of your campaign. By the end of October, again, you'll see a lot of those partnerships that I was mentioning kind of coming together on social media. So be following and retweeting and amplifying that content. Think about where on your website you want your GiveMiamiDay.org Give Miami Day information. It should be right there up front, you know, right there when you land. Folks should be able to see that you all are participating. And you may also think about leveraging your donation page. And we'll talk about how to embed the donation widget as well to ensure that you're not missing any person who wants to give to your organization on that day, even if they make it to your website. Okay, so a couple of questions. Is early giving only available on Monday, or is it Monday through Wednesday? It is Monday through Wednesday. How do the pledges work? Do you get their credit card information? You do not get their credit card information, but it works just like a normal gift on Give Miami Day would. So you will get the donor's contact information, but again, you won't get their credit card info. How do we know when our Power Hour is running? Will it be on your website? Yes. We will release the schedule of Power Hours on our website as soon as it is finalized. So you'll have plenty of time to plan around them. And if we have a donor that is willing to make a match donation for one of the hours, is that allowed? So if we have a donor that is willing to make a match donation for one of the hours, is that allowed? Absolutely, that is allowed. And on our platform that we launched last year, we actually have the ability for donors to see if you have secured a separate match of your own as an organization. And so, yes, that's a great way to encourage additional giving during the hour. Okay, so let's. All right, in the final weeks leading up to Give Miami Day, again, we talked about the website's donation page. You will get a URL that allows you to embed a donation widget on your website. And so that will enable, if someone actually makes it to your donation page, they will have, they can actually see right there a portal to give through to the GiveMiamiDay.org platform. So you'll receive that link. You'll be able to embed it on your page if you would like. And again, in the final weeks leading up to Give Miami Day would be the time to do that. For Facebook, changing your profile cover photo, same thing on Instagram, tweaking your Facebook and Twitter and Instagram about language to point it toward Give Miami Day is also a good idea so that people know that you're kind of coming into that time where that will really be the focus of your content on your social platforms. Talk about your Power Hour. Again, we'll release the schedule of when each category will have their hour throughout those 12 hours from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And so start to point people toward that time frame and getting content ready. The idea would be that donors who care about that issue will be particularly tuning into Give Miami Day during that time. So it may not be so much about just talking about your organization, but even just more broadly, what are the causes that your organization is championing, and what are the larger values that your organization exhibits through its work? All of those kind of broader narratives and concepts is good content for that hour, again, so that you're reaching and engaging people who care about that issue. And then, as I mentioned, plan for early giving. Donors can start making pledges on the site beginning the Monday of Give Miami Day. for the first time ever. And so really leveraging that so that we're capturing folks throughout that entire week, not just in those 24 hours, will be critical for a successful campaign. Will there be a media toolkit available? I'm sorry, answering questions from Florencia. Yes, there will be a media toolkit available. We usually make different social media graphics and other assets available for participating nonprofits in the nonprofit toolkit on givemiamiday.org. So over the next few days and weeks, all of that information will be updated as we get closer to the day. Same answer for where will be the widgets with the Give Miami Day logos. One question from Sarah, is the online pledge on your site storing the credit card information and charging them on the day? Yes, we will store, the platform stores the information and the credit card is charged on the day of. And I think that's it. For Christine, first time participating in Give Miami Day and you're very excited, great, so glad to hear that. How do the bonus and matching donations work? That's a great question. Chelsea Clark on our team did a wonderful Give Miami Day 101 presentation that talked through kind of the logistics of how Give Miami Day works. That will be available on givemiamiday.org as well in the nonprofit toolkit. And so you may go and see, get more information on all of that in that webinar. Okay. So on November 18th, the day before Give Miami Day, make sure to have an e-blast ready. You know, again, it's those 24 hours, but you want to make sure that you're pointing people that it's beginning, it's finally here. All that you've been communicating and kind of building people up around for the past several weeks and months is now coming down to this moment. So you want to make sure folks are ready. Then you want to remind donors if there were any targeted prizes that you were going for. Again, prizes for those who are new to Give Miami Day are explained in that kind of Give Miami Day 101 seminar that Chelsea Clark did and will be online. But prizes are just particular time frames throughout the day when if a nonprofit, say, for example, receives the most number of unique gifts during that time frame for maybe like a 1 to 2 hour period, then they receive an extra bonus gift from the prize pool. So if you are targeting any of those prizes, or again, if you have a power hour time slot, make sure that you're reminding folks about those time frames, and the list of prizes will be available on the website soon. During Give Miami Day, you want to bring people along with you, and this is important because it creates what we call in communications a shared experience. When you are going for a particular goal, so say your goal is to raise $15,000 on Give Miami Day, as you're making progress toward that goal, you want people to share that experience with you so that they're taking ownership of reaching that $15,000. So for example, if you can say that when you hit $14,000 raised, that, hey folks, we're almost there, we're $1,000 away. If you've given, dig a little bit deeper, we want to get there together, will you please make an additional gift? That sense of urgency to kind of collectively, let's all accomplish this together, is a very powerful way to get donors to give. So be thinking about how you can share milestones with folks throughout the day and share updates so that you're bringing them along throughout the campaign. And then again, make sure that you are absolutely telling folks thank you. This is so important. It's not just about some flat thank you of just saying, oh, great, thanks for the gift. Really be thoughtful and personalized and showing appreciation to donors, because as I just mentioned in that story about Joshua's Heart Foundation, when you do it well, it creates a long-term relationship with the donor. Okay, see a question about the pledges. Can people pledge on the Give Miami Day site beforehand? and where. So yes, you'll be able to go on the Monday before Give Miami Day to givemiamiday.org and navigate to your nonprofit's profile page, and then that is where you will go ahead and make your pledge gift. Okay. All right. So on Give Miami Day, being a team, you know, that is really important because it is a 24-hour campaign and you don't want to go dark during any of that time. You really want to utilize that entire period to get folks engaged, even overnight, because you would be surprised how many folks you can get to give during those times. So take shifts and make it work, make all of these media platforms work for you by utilizing scheduling tools like TweetDeck and Hootsuite and the Facebook scheduler on their Insights platform. We will be absolutely communicating throughout the day. Be sure to follow us if you're ever at a loss for what to share or tweet or to post on Instagram or Facebook. Share our content because it'll be, again, personalized for each power hour. And so when we come to your category of nonprofit, we'll be talking about those issues and we'll be sharing content around the work that your nonprofit does. And so, again, always utilize us as a resource for content. Be yourself, your photos, your excitement, your voice. Again, authenticity, sticking to the same branding, colors, fonts, look and feel that you have been using to engage your donors. You know what works with them. You know what kind of videos they like to see. You know what kind of images they like to see. And so all of that helps donors recognize your organization in the midst of the 800 plus that are encouraging people to give on that day. And remember that quality is better than quantity, that this is about authentically getting donors who care about these issues to support your organization. So it's not just about asking for money, asking for money, asking for money. It's about building a relationship with your donor so that they're not just giving to you on Give Miami Day, but that you're actually creating a relationship with them that will last long beyond that. And finally, some ideas on what's working right now. So, of course, again, in this COVID-19 environment, so much of what nonprofits do and how they fundraise has had to pivot to a virtual space. And so what has worked well? Virtual fundraisers, dance parties, performances, all of those are great ways to engage donors on Give Miami Day. So maybe it's getting a local DJ and having them do a set on a Zoom platform where, you know, you mute all the other participants, the DJ's playing the music, and intermittently as the DJ's playing in between breaks, you can have someone from the organization talking a bit about the work of the organization and why it's so important that folks should give and support on the day. Virtual performances are working very well for arts organizations right now. Again, a lot of folks are on these Zoom calls, you know, just like you all and all of us are right now, throughout the entire week. And so make it interesting, make it boring, make it not boring, but make it engaging. Think of it like a TV show. You know, if it's people speaking, and then maybe you play a video, and then maybe you have a music performance. But just think about different senses that you want to stimulate through that Zoom experience, because again, just sitting there watching some, you know, talking head exchange back and forth with someone else can just get very boring very quickly. Donor challenges are working well. As I mentioned, you know, you saw the folks who were, you know, the 10 for 10, I do 10 push-ups and challenge, you know, folks in my network to do 10 push-ups and they do the same and they do the same. Maybe it's a donor challenge of give 25, raise 25. So, you know, tap your brand ambassadors to give $25 and then encourage them to find 10 other people who are going to give $25, and then encourage those 10 people to encourage 10 other people, and then provide them the social media graphics and content that talk about the challenge. So as they're buying into it and as they're a part of it, they're sharing that, so that you're creating that kind of fear of missing out, which again is a very powerful way to get people and encourage them to give. So again, that's important there, to leverage your ambassadors. And then think about creating more intimate virtual experiences for big donors. A couple of weeks ago, the Perez Art Museum had George Clinton in a conversation with their director, Franklin Sermons, to talk about his passion for the arts. That was a major draw for folks, but maybe that's not available to everyone. You know, maybe just for the bigger donors, you create kind of a smaller, more intimate space with them. So just think about the different levels of donors that you have, and make sure that you are creating experiences that are in line with the different levels of giving. Okay, so in our last couple of minutes, I am just going to go through a few of these final questions. Do you have a question from Joan? Do you have technical support to help put an effective e-blast together, or how to go about compiling one? Absolutely, Joan. You will see, actually, let me just navigate to that now. If I can get there. There we go. Okay. Thank you, Zoom, for finally cooperating with me. Yes, we have folks that can absolutely help you with this. We have dedicated folks on our team who manage our social media platforms and are helping us with our Give Miami Day campaign, and can absolutely help you as well. So there's my email address. Just shoot me a note and I will get you connected with those folks. And of course, I'm always available and happy to help participating organizations as well. Will your messaging, question from Michelin, will your messaging on the day only be on your social media, or will it be on the website too? Oh yes, it will absolutely be on our website. We communicate across all of our digital platforms on Give Miami Day. So it's a full court press, and I encourage all participating nonprofits to approach their campaign the exact same way. Karen asked, can I get more information on the champion page? Sure, you may always, as I mentioned, reach out to our team. We're happy to talk more about how those work. Again, pretty simple, straightforward concept. But yes, we understand that there are some ways of which that you can leverage them, particularly to get your ambassadors to create them. And so yes, we're happy to talk through that with you. And then I see folks just sharing thanks, and that it was informative. Good, I'm glad. Thanks so much, everyone. I apologize for all of our technical glitches, but we made it through as we knew that we would. And that is, there could not be a better metaphor for this year than what just happened over this last hour, that, you know, no matter what, as you may lay out your best plans for Give Miami Day, just know that it may not necessarily unfold the way that you think it will. We don't know what's happening week to week in this year, because it's just so much is in flux. And so stay flexible, stay gracious to yourself, be kind to yourself and to others, and just know that we're all just trying to do our very, very best in this very tough year and tough moment. But again, by all means, please reach out to our team. We're here as a resource for you, and best wishes to every single participating organization for what we hope will be the biggest and best, most important Give Miami Day in history. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day.